Yo, what is up?
Hey, welcome back.
I am not. I was just thinking. I'm always like, yo, and it sounds the exact same every time.
Every single video, it's just you. Hey, or hey.
No, you say hey, I say yo.
Hey, yo, hey, yo.
Oh gosh, okay. Welcome to Ministry Misfits Podcast. I am Javon.
And I am Matt.
And we're gonna get straight into it. Tell me what is going on in the world.
Oh, so much stuff.
Something about a puppy.
There's a story of a man who he's at his birthday party. I didn't read the full story, read all the details, but he's at his birthday party, so I'm guessing he's just having a good time,
Vegas.
having a meal. Yep. No, it's in New York. But he's at his birthday party, and there's like a dog in the New York City River. I don't know which one, but just as the New York City River. And so he bails on his party, jumps in the river with a life jacket. I mean, I hope you don't just jump in a river. Don't do that. It's not safe. But he jumps in the river with a life jacket and goes to save this puppy. And then obviously, fire comes and everyone else comes. And
So they just had life jackets just chilling at the party?
I don't know. I'm guessing it was like a dockside party, a bayside party. If you know more about this story than I do, all I know is it was a feel-good story. And I love puppies. So, I mean, shout out to the man who risked his life for a puppy.
I'm not the biggest puppy guy.
Yeah, I love puppies. I don't, well, this wasn't a puppy either. It was a bigger dog. I don't know if I would jump into a river, a fast-moving river, if that.
You are feeding into that stereotype right now. So
yeah.
Please tell them you can swim. Just so
I can swim. I can hands down swim. That was not confident. Let me backtrack.
I can swim.
I can swim. I promise. No, my cousins can swim. I can swim. Runs in the family. My dad was a swimmer. I don't sink. I swim.
Oh, that reminds me of those tattoos. So the tattoo of like the anchor is usually like right here, and it's like, I refuse to sink. And I'm like, but isn't that exactly what anchors do?
They sink.
They're literally made to sink into
and
the
hold
ground.
In place and sinking down.
I hope that you are not like an anchor, and I hope that you don't sink.
I hope you're like a duck pool floaty that can float up the surface and survive.
A nice little pink donut. That's what I hope you are.
Or a pizza slice, whatever is your poison.
I actually really want one of those, the floaties, but it's just one giant pizza slice. Is that what you're talking about?
Are you talking about the one floaty where they all like Velcro together to be the giant pizza?
That's even better.
It's like pieces. So they can either be their individual floaty or it comes together as a giant pizza floaty.
I would be the crust. The crust is the best part of the pizza. I don't care what nobody says.
But you get it's a slice. It's like a slice. You don't get to pick to be the crust. That'd be a weird floaty. You'd be like,
think about it like this way.
You'd be on a noodle, basically. That's what
No, I'm talking about that thick, 2 C's, that thick crust.
I can't believe you just said thick, 2 C crust.
Thick crust, you know what I'm saying? So like you got I'm thinking massive. I'm thinking like 10 crust floaties, so right?
You a deep dish.
Facts. All day. Chicago deep dish.
Chicago
with the sauce
deep
on
dish.
top.
Oh, yep.
Brother.
You like that mozzarella crust, like where it's got like that feeling, like.
Ooh, on the inside, no. If I bite into some crust,
garlic though, you don't want no surprises when you bite into the crust.
I don't want nothing inside the crust. I want it on top of the crust. If it's inside the crust, skip it.
It's just weird.
Because it reminds me of
how it's meant to be
when I was in elementary school. Okay, this story's kind of gross. The story's kind of gross. I don't care. It's Ministry Misfits. So
I forgot what does crust and pizza have to do with being gross.
This is why, because the crust with the mozzarella in it. So this family at the end of the cul-de-sac when I lived, I can't remember where I was living, but they gave us hot dogs. Right? Okay. Bit into the hot dog, cheese oozes out of the middle.
Oh no!
I threw up instantly because I didn't know what it was.
No,
my body was like, that's not right.
Like that's not how hot dogs are made.
To this day, I do not want to eat a hot dog with cheese in it because it reminds me of that day.
Why?
Hot dog with cheese on it is fine.
On it, but not in it.
In it?
No. It don't seem natural.
It's not. And the worst part is like the ends were closed off too.
I mean, hot dogs aren't natural in themselves. So like a hot dog filled with cheese, I mean, you know that's not good for you.
The ends were closed off. And so I was like, there's no way. I was like, how am I supposed to know something's in
this?
That's
so deceiving. Like,
I don't trust people.
It's a hot dog. Nope.
Yep. If y'all want to know why it's hard for me to trust people, it was that day.
It was that hot dog.
That did it.
You can't trust people because of cheese-filled hot dogs.
I cannot trust people because of cheese-filled hot dogs. Let's start it off soft. Talk about some light stuff first, because I know you got a heavy topic on yours.
You got one too. Shoot,
let's start it off light-esque. So I saw this news article that said mega church Kansas City area pastor leaves wife, family, and faith.
Well, so first off, that's a run-on sentence. I don't need to be a grammar major to know that, but check your.
I didn't know
sentence.
That. I just put a comma whenever I feel like a sentence is too long.
Comma.
Bro, if you ever read one of my papers, if a sentence goes too long, I will literally just add a comma.
I had an English teacher just told me just add a comma and you'll get by.
Yeah, it's like it's a list.
Don't know if that's valid.
It's a list of sentences. Anyways.
Yep.
So it wasn't actually a megachurch pastor because nobody knows who this guy is. So basically,
where was he at? Where's he from?
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Fallon, Kansas City. Okay.
Yep. So basically, the story is he was sleeping around. He got caught. And he got fired. And then he either got fired or he quit. And then he left his family, left his wife, left everybody, and said I don't believe in God and all this stuff.
You don't believe in God because you made a mistake and you're not man enough to own your mistake?
Well, I believe he probably didn't believe in God. This is one of his quotes. He says, "I was fully devoted to studying the scriptures. I think I missed maybe 12 Sundays in 40 years. I had completely memorized 18 books of the Bible and was reading through the Bible for the 24th time when I walked away." I think this dude had a bunch of head knowledge and no heart knowledge.
And see, that's the problem. That's so here's the deal. You can't sit there, not theology debate. And I know this is gonna be hard to kind of taper through this, but you can't sit there. And here's the problem: is I struggle with, and this is just from my perspective, reading the Bible front to back, and these years. I think there's a benefit in some of it and understanding, and just
right.
But when you're reading the Bible, I've never missed a Sunday. Nowhere in that conversation or that quote does he say, and my relationship, my journey, my connection with God, it's all my knowledge, what I know of God, who I know God to be through reading the Bible or the books or my studies or whatever.
Right.
And so that's the problem, because that's where, the head and the heart aren't connected. Your knowledge and your heart aren't connected in that. And that's the problem is, okay, so you know about God, you know who God is. Now it's a choice to translate that into a heart decision, whether you want to believe and follow God. And that's the next step. And so I don't know. I mean, again, and this isn't me, because I'm not going to sit here and call this, I don't think it's my place to say that this guy didn't believe it. And based on what he's saying, I'd say that he doesn't believe, or really maybe not believe, but doesn't have a relationship with God. Maybe he had faith. Maybe he had the Christian label and title. Tons of people are Christians. Yeah, and don't have a relationship with God.
There's a super high percentage of Christians in the United States, many of which don't know anything about the Bible. But my issue is...
And I do quotes because... sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I want to capitalize on that. I do quotes because we say we're Christians. And even for me, I take myself back to when I grew up in the church, and I was a Christian because that's what you did. And that's what I was raised in. And you went to church and it made me a Christian. It was never a relationship until I made it my own.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is that there's a difference between head knowledge, heart knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So you can read the Bible 10 million times. It'll mean absolutely nothing to you if it's not a part of your heart, right? So if you can read it, you can memorize it, you can learn it, all these things, you can read through it 24 times and you could get absolutely nothing out of it.
Okay.
Because you're not actively seeking a relationship with God. They say, there's the quote, you already know it, Christianity is a relationship, not a religion. Is that what they say?
Yeah. Now they're saying it's a religion, not a relationship, or it's a relationship, not a religion.
But regardless, it has to be both, okay? Yeah. Because if you have a relationship with no religion, it means that you know God, you believe in God, you have a relationship with him, but you don't need to follow the religious law. If you have religion without relationship, all you're doing is works, and then you don't have any faith. So it's like a toss-up. You have to find yourself in the middle of the two.
So perfect example, and I'm going to break it down to even more simplify for hopefully, in the sense of take God out of the whole equation. Take it just the principle, right? Okay, so just in a relationship, a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship, okay? So say that you have a relationship And it's just a relationship. Okay, well, cool. It's just a relationship. It's just a heart. It's a feel. It's just it's a connection. Is what I like about you. But if there's no growth, there's no intention, there's no plan, there's no follow through, there's no like the religion aspect of it per se in this, right? Then, but then you have the flip side, right? You just have the structure of what a relationship will look like, and you have this, and you have no heart. You're not in it. You're just in it for the game. You're just in it for the looks. You're just in it for the status.
Yeah.
Well, again, you can't have one and not the other. You got to have both because there's a structure that comes with the religion. And I think there's a part of it too where it's like, yes, the relationship is important, but there's also a part in your relationship where the religion plays part. There's things that God calls you to do, and in that, or just in general, there's things that you're called to do in that relationship. And
here's the thing. For those of you who are in relationships, think about it this way. If you and your girl or you and your guy set up rules and boundaries and you don't follow any of them, does it work out?
No,
it doesn't.
And the reason why is because the boundaries, and there's no structure, there's no support. Now you set up boundaries, and now you put in accountability partners with those boundaries, because that's part of the relationship aspect and the religion aspect per se. We're saying, hey, now I have people holding me accountable for this relationship and what I do.
Well, here's the thing: is that when you don't follow the rules, it ruins your relationship.
Yep.
When you don't have your relationship, then the rules don't mean anything.
Yep.
So in this case, he doesn't have the relationship. So all the things in the Bible don't really mean anything because he doesn't have a relationship with the person whose these rules are for.
So the rules of adultery, the rules of...
It's like there are laws in Kentucky that I don't follow here because they're not laws here.
Exactly.
I don't have to follow those laws because that place has no jurisdiction over me.
Yes.
I can't get in trouble. There's no loss in not following those laws because they're not here.
Yes.
If here is your heart and the laws are God's, then if you don't follow those laws because they're in another place to you, then it doesn't affect you because you think God has no jurisdiction over you.
Yep.
It's a beautiful thing. This is the thing that got me. He said, the way that the church turned on me forced me to leave permanently. So it's always this little switch tactic. It's like, oh, the church burned me, so now I have to get rid of everything and remove myself from everyone. And that's the reason I'm leaving my wife. And that's the reason why I'm doing this.
I don't know this guy personally. I don't know his story. I don't know what all he did. But here's my struggle with this. First off, men, women, equally, I don't care. If you make a mistake, you own it. All right, you own your stuff. Okay, because the problem is we're in a society today where we're not owning our stuff. We want someone else to come up and pick up the pieces, pick up our mess, pick up and fix us. We want the quick fix. We want the quick, and here's the deal is, okay, so the church maybe did ostracize you or maybe did put you out, whatever, but maybe there's some content in what you did that has a huge impact on the church. Because now you've been overseeing this church and leading these people astray in this way. And now your whole congregation just went from, if it's a mega church, 7, 8, whatever thousand, now to a couple thousand.
Yep.
And now your tithe and your budget and sometimes ends. And ultimately, now your tithe that has been coming in and the budget that you have, now you're firing other people because you can't afford to pay those people anymore because you don't have the budget and the capacity anymore because of what that person did.
Yeah, but here's the real kicker to me is that so he says I had a seed of doubt in 8th grade that never went away after reading ancient mythology and things like that. If you have a seed of doubt, okay, everybody has doubts, right? Like that's normal. Everybody has doubts in some things, in some areas, like that makes sense. But you cannot go on. Okay, maybe I can't say that. Yeah, I can say this. I think you cannot go on to be a lead pastor if you have heavy seeds of doubt.
Well, and if it's something that's that prominent, it's like that thorn in your side, right? Like it's not going away. Yeah. Like that thorn is still in your side. You must remove that thorn before you can continue to go through. And you can pretend like it's not there, but guess what it's going to do? Continue to be a nuisance that's there that keeps.
What is real thorn and nuisance in my life?
Javon is beautiful soul.
What's a real nuisance and thorn in my life?
You gotta be real careful with what you say.
Do you know what's a real nuisance and or thorn in my life?
Not having an In-N-Out down the street from your house?
I do have an In-N-Out. It's right on Peoria.
Oh, that's right. That's true.
The thorn and nuisance in my life is every single week I go outside and it's so hot. Matt thought I was gonna say it was him. Look at him. Look at you.
So here's the deal.
You had to see the doubt in me.
Go watch or go listen to all the other podcasts and hear the fun.
Speaking of which, quick promo. Make sure you are liking and sharing and showing this podcast to other people. We would love to expand and grow and reach more people.
I just think it's funny. I have conversations with people and like I'll just mention like, hey, I'm going to do a podcast episode, and they're like, wait, you do a podcast?
It drives me nuts.
I'm like, fam, like I don't know how much more I could share on my platforms and connections, and I'm just like, yep, that's what it is. Like that's where we're at. Like we do a podcast. Like
I love when people ask me, they're like, who do you do a podcast with? And I'm like, you said that you watched the podcast. If you watched it's a video. Okay, all right.
Like we both introduce ourselves, and there's a video that sees.
By the way, I'm Javon,
and I'm Matt.
Just in case you missed the intro,
and you don't know who's who either. He has dreads. I have a fro that's pulled back. I will have dreads eventually.
See, this is what we need to talk about. Ministry misfit. I refuse.
Hold on, let's get back on this topic because I feel like we didn't finish it. I feel like we didn't close it out.
I refuse to have a podcast with 2 dreadheads. Okay, so
2 dreadheads. I can't with you. I think there's an issue. I think there's an issue when in the church, if there's moral conflict or moral failure or issues or things that are happening, and we don't own it. And like my biggest heartache is, I've made mistakes. I've had failures. I've had things I've done, and nothing to that extent in that moment, to each his own, no way weighting my sin different than his sin.
Yeah.
But in that, I've gone before my bosses, gone before my people and said, hey, like, I just want to be 100% transparent. I want my integrity to be intact. I don't want this to come up from anyone else. Like, and this is like stuff too, like, not that like I'm living in sin right now. And no, this is like past stuff that I felt convicted about that I didn't share, or maybe was something that I didn't feel was like necessary to 2019 Matt, like where I am now in my life than I was back in the day. When,
2018.
When back in the day, stupid. Back in the day, like in like high school, like back in the day in like, early college. And so in that, for me, like it's like us as men, and I'm just going to speak on the men aspect real quick. Us as men we need to grow up. We need to own our moral failures. We need to own our conflict. And then we need to go alongside other men and allow them to hold, support us, uplift us, encourage us, challenge us, and help shape us into the man that God wants us to be. Because ultimately, if we're not doing life in community with other men in that circle, in that community, then, I mean, what are we doing? Like, you can't be a leader and not have that community and that support
system. Well, let me
ask
you this.
Can I do the women's side real quick?
Sure.
Okay. Now, flip side. Women, you also have to be owning your conflict and your failures, and it can't be, it's his fault or it's this or you got to own up too, and you got to surround yourself with godly women and women that are going to walk alongside you and journey and support and encourage and mentor and develop and be there to call you out and speak truth in your life, because ultimately it's an equal playing field. Like everyone has their faults, everyone has their different things, but we need to own our failures, and then we need to step into them, and in that navigate out of what it looks like to journey and be in community with people. Okay,
but here's my issue with everything. So I 100% get that. I feel the same way. But there's an issue with how the church operates, right? Yep. So let's say this lead pastor had faith, billions of it, okay? Like billion pounds of it. Tons, okay?
That's how we weigh our faith.
Right. We weigh our faith in tons and liters. So, get it? Liters?
Yeah, I see.
So this guy had a bunch of faith. He's God-fearing, all this stuff. He gets caught up with some women, right? So he ends up sleeping with a couple ladies, and then he says, okay, I'm convicted about it. And then he goes to his leadership and he says, okay, this happened. What do you think is going to happen?
Immediate I can't even say the word ostracization. I don't know if that's
he's going to get fired.
He's going to get fired. They're going to get rid of him. They're going to get rid of him. They're going to try to cover it as much as possible. Well, here's the thing. On them and not the church.
It's going to be the exact same headline.
Yep.
Fallen Kansas City pastor leaves wife, family, faith. The issue with sin.
But there's no church either. Like, it doesn't say the church, or it doesn't say, like, it says fallen Kansas City pastor leaves wife, church, and faith.
Right. But the thing is that regardless of what happens, sin ends pastors' careers.
Yep.
Regardless of how you put it. So if if we know that falling short is going to cause us to be fired from our positions, and this is just me playing devil's advocate in a way.
Yep.
Can we really blame pastors for hiding what they hide? Because they know they're going to lose everything anyways.
Well, and that's the other part too, is like knowing that you're going to lose everything, knowing what it's going to cost. You know, you have so many pastors weighing the scale of like, well, how long can I like skate this, or how like, man, I want to get out of this, and like, how long can I navigate through this sin or this struggle, this issue? Because it's like, you know, I don't feel like I'm like physically like, this isn't me, this isn't what I want to be to do, but I know that if I step out of this, I'm never stepping back into a church, or I'm not stepping back into a church for a long time.
You're unhireable at that point.
Yeah. Well, especially with moral conflict like that. I mean, for you to come back from that to rebuild your, like, the credibility, the accountability, the amount of steps and probably counseling and stuff that like even a small church would want you to be through. And even out of that small church, I mean, your reputation is still going to be held to that. So anywhere you go, it's going to go, hey, where you been? Well, I was here. Oh, and we see that you were here. You know, what happened here? What's this story? Yep. Oh, it was a moral conflict. It was a failure. Okay, cool. Well, we'll get back to you.
And then they never get back to you.
Yep.
And it's honestly, it's so stupid because we preach this transparency, this all sin can be covered by God and all this stuff. But the truth is, just like we talked about in the podcast with Ben, and we have to repeat this over and over again, is that churches look at your sin as if it's the biggest thing in the world. And the only time that your sin is accepted by churches is if you don't work at it.
Yep.
I would say most of the time.
Well, and I think it's a two-parter. Don't work at it, or don't volunteer in a role that could make the church look bad, or volunteer in a role that could affect how people view the church.
And the church cares more about its reputation than reconciliation with people.
Well, and that goes back to the problem of like, how are we navigating with the lost? Like, and for me, ultimately, like, I want to be the church for the lost and the broken. Like, I'm glad that you love Jesus and you're on fire and you're searching and you're navigating, and cool. I want to be a church for the broken. Like, and you can join me in that, you know, helping be there.
Right. But I feel like it's easy to, like, because I've never been in the position where I've had the power to fire anybody, really, if, in all honesty. So, like, how do we actually deal with that? So if let's say you're the lead pastor of the church and your youth pastor is married and sleeps with some girls and comes to you and says, hey, this happened. What do you do? What do you do from there?
So here's what you do.
Hypothetical.
All right. Hypothetical. I'm the lead pastor of a church. My youth guy comes to me in confidence and goes, hey, you know, sets up a meeting. We sit down. He goes, hey, I messed up. You know, I had an affair on my wife with these two students, whatever. And, you know, I'm putting in my resignation. You know, I want to, like, you know, I don't want the church to look bad.
They don't want to resign.
Oh, they don't. So the youth guy doesn't want to resign.
No.
Okay. Well, then I would sit down there. I mean, okay. So I think it's okay. Yeah. Let me do that one. And then let me do, well, no. Okay. So they don't want to resign. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna sit down there and process, where did this moral conflict start happening? Where did the failure in your marriage start happening where you felt like you needed to go search for something else? In that, now I'm going to make it evidently clear that going forward, the steps we're going to need to take, and ultimately, you know, I want to help pay for some of the counseling for you and your wife to go through so you can save your marriage, because I don't think it's worth me ostracizing you and your marriage ending. Also, I'm not going to march you out in front of the church and put you on a stake and a martyr for you to be burned by the church and everyone else. No, you did do something wrong, but there also was a lot of good you did here at the church. So in that, you know, I want us to go well about this. I want us to go and have a sit down conversation and talk about what it looks like. And out of that, like, I want us to talk about, hey, like, if you would like to come know more about what kind of the situation was, you know, feel free to reach out to me, or even feel free to reach out to the person saying, hey, you know, and ultimately trying to get to a place where I work with them, where I say, hey, you know, what we need to do here in this position is that you need to step back and you need to take time to work on, one, your marriage and your relationship with your wife. And then two, to work on, if you have kids, your relationship with your kids and what that looks like. Two, your home life, but then three, your personal relationship with Jesus and where that is at, and getting your heart right in that. And so I think in that, navigating what that looks like and saying, hey, now I think if the youth guy comes to me and says, hey, like, I messed up and this is a deal and here's my resignation. And, you know, I don't want the church to look bad. I don't want it to come like I fully own my mistake. I fully like, again, same thing, counseling, navigate, walk alongside of, hey, yes, I still think it's time for you to step back so you can prioritize this time to work through it. But let's navigate through this counseling season. And maybe you're not back in that position here at the church, but maybe let's find another place or spot that we can bring you back into and maybe get you to that place again at some point in time. But right now, this is what we need to do so you can work on your relationship and, you know, that kind of season. I don't know. I think that's the healthiest way to do it. Because instead of, hey, you screwed up, you made a mistake, now the church looks bad. All right, we got to get rid of you and try to cover this up or spin it some type of way so that the church doesn't dip in attendance or dip in tithe or whatever. Hey, let's sit here and actually like journey alongside you and do life with you like Jesus did with all the other sinners. I think that for me is the key, is that like, we're not called to sit here and ostracize and judge and put these people in these almost like burn on a stake and martyr. We're called to sit here and navigate alongside them with their moral conflict.
I guess all I want to know. So I don't know. I think this is something I wrestle with a lot when it comes to churches, church people, all this stuff. And so I just don't, like, I see why people do what they do. Like,
yep.
It feels like there's really no solution to failure in the church. There's no point where it's like, okay.
I think it's still, we're human and we're always going to be human. And so we're going to have that moral failure that's going to happen.
Right. But I just don't see that. I don't see pastors getting back into ministry well, and especially not at their same church after moral failure. And it's pretty much the only sin that's like that on, because I know churches that have pastors who are alcoholics and churches who have pastors that are this and are that, and yet they get to keep their jobs, but somebody does something on that end, then it's like, oh, no. We got to get rid of you. I feel like there's a weighted reconciliation when it comes to church leaders.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know how it aligns biblically. None of it really makes sense to me. And so really, that's probably why I'm glad that I'm just a youth pastor and I'm not. And because I don't think that I could get an elder board to agree with real, true reconciliation and restoration in a position. Because the thing is, the truth coming out is that, okay, cool, you get rid of this guy and you bring in another guy and they're going to do something wrong too. And it just might not be something that's like that. Like, no matter who you bring in, somebody's going to do something wrong. Again,
I think the human aspect, we're still set to moral failure. I think that's one spot where I disagree is I think that, like, yes, I think there's still going to be something that they do wrong. And I think everyone has their flaws. Everyone has their moments and people can grow. But I think if if you are a healthy leader yourself, like if your lead pastor is a healthy leader, right? And your lead pastor is in tune to the health of his church and the health of his staff. And when I say in tune, not just doing your own little thing in your own little world and living no, in tune to knowing how his staff are doing, where they're at, how their ministry are doing. Like, you're in their rooms, you're in their kitchen, you're in their ministry, you're listening to what's going on. Like, you're not just getting the reports, you're actually listening and sitting down with them. If you're checking on their heart, if you're aware of them, there should be no place for a conflict or failure to just magically sneak up. Because guess what? If you're in tune and you're listening, and I'm not saying that like there's a perfect leader and there's going to be the, Captain Planet leader that's got it all figured out and whatever. But I think that if you know the health of your leaders and your staff and your people in your church, you can see when moral conflict or moral failure is going to happen.
But your staff can easily lie to you.
They can.
And
but you can also see when they're lying if you know their heart, if you get to know who they are.
I don't know. People are deceiving.
Hands down, people are deceiving. I'm not going to disagree with you.
I mean, because on the opposite side, it's like the same thing with suicide.
Yep.
Is that somebody looks happy, they seem happy, and you can be like the closest of friends with somebody, and then out of nowhere they commit suicide. Yep. And so it could be the exact same thing with moral failure. It's like they seem happy, their wife seems happy, their relationship seems great, and then out of nowhere, every time they find out of nowhere, pretty much.
Most of the time it's out of nowhere.
And it's like everything seemed fine, and they could be even best friends. Like, I know plenty of situations where pastors were like close, and then out of nowhere, one pastor disappears, and we're like, well, what happened? It's like, well, moral failure, this happened. We had no idea. And it's like, and you guys were the closest of friends.
That's the other part too. I hear you on that. I think like there's like that. It's a hard line between the two and what it looks like. But what you said just right there, like, the one pastor's gone, and then like it's like, oh, hey, what happens? Blah, blah, oh, moral failure. That, oh, like it just gets me, like it makes me gross. Like it makes me feel gross. Like we aren't a transparent church. Like, so we sit there and we go, not like we in my church where we're at, but like the big C, we're not transparent enough where we're going to be real and go, not shame the person. Again, not going out and not ostracizing the person, but going, hey, like, this is what happened, and this is kind of situation, and so this is why it's important for you to be in a small group community and be in, and like we sit there and we just try to sugarcoat it so that it makes the church look good, and the church doesn't look bad in it.
Well, so this is my question. So we do that, and we were transparent with the staff, and we tell the people who want to know, but then they tell somebody who tells somebody who tells somebody tells somebody, and then at the end of it, it's a completely different story than what actually happened. So wouldn't it even probably be better just to rip the Band-Aid off in front of everybody?
Well, or here's the thing, is we tell the staff one thing, and then we tell the church another thing. And maybe it's still along the lines of the truth, but it's the sugar-coated truth, or it's the
You're saying PG we should version. Do that, or we should
No.
not?
I'm saying that's what we do. That's what we do. And so it goes into that trickling thing where it's one thing, and turns into something worse, or turns into just all the ugliness coming out later, and people getting frustrated and upset that the church wasn't real, honest, and raw. Being 100% candy, I just met with someone recently, and they were talking to me about like another church's conflict and failure, and they were like, I left the church because I found out about it, like, not through the church. I found about it through like gossip channels and through the people of the church, and well, this is what happened recently, and and it's like, oh, when people hear that, they just go, for me, it just makes me go, oh, like it makes me cringe and go, why? Mm-hmm. Like, why can't we be transparent? Like, we're asking people to be open, honest, vulnerable, and transparent, and be in communities and share their life, but we're not willing to be that first.
As somebody in the congregation, I would prefer, this is just me, again, this is my uncommon opinion, that's fine. I would prefer if my pastor had let's say I'm at a random church, my lead pastor not my lead pastor, let's say my associate pastor has an affair. Because the lead pastor, I'll explain both. My associate pastor has an affair. I would prefer them both coming out on stage, saying exactly what happened. This is our plan. This is our plan for restoration. And that assistant pastor stays in that position, rather than just throwing him out the door and me not knowing what happens to him. Because in my eyes, as a person in congregation, that tells me if I mess up, I'm not going to them. They're just going to kick me out of the door. Nothing's going to happen. Lead pastor is a little bit more harder, I do admit, because at most churches, you don't know who the elders are.
Yeah.
So you got these group of 12 people coming on stage and you're like, we don't know who you are. And then they're like, we're going to take care of this. And like, we don't know. So in that instance, I would hope that there's somebody that's influential in the church that's above the lead pastor that the church knows who could do that exact same thing for the lead pastor. But I think that, again, just in my opinion, if we just continue just to get rid of the people who mess up, then the people who are messed up coming in are going to pick up on that and say, well, I messed up. There's no way that they're going to reconcile me. There's no way they're going to help me.
Well, and then if I continue to mess up, like, say that I'm volunteering and serving, you're just going to ostracize me and throw me out because I messed up.
Exactly.
I showed up volunteering, from a party and I'm drunk, or, whatever, I'm not going to be able to come back and volunteer. I'm going to get flagged, or I'm going to be put in the system as do not volunteer. The confidential notes that only the staff members can read of,
Y'all have those?
This person, we don't. No.
Okay. We don't have.
I wish we did. I've been at churches where they have those, and
I wouldn't know. I suck at knowing the confidential stuff.
I usually don't get to look at them.
I stay out of anything shady. I'm like, I don't.
For me, it's like,
can I tell people? Don't tell me. I don't want to know. When it comes to church business, I don't want to know. Just don't tell me.
Don't tell me. If I don't need to know, don't tell me.
Yeah, for real.
But no, I agree with you. I think like that route too just speaks to the health of like, your church as well too. Like when your church members see you handle that situation like that, they go, wow, like we are actually practicing what we preach, and not just with like our congregation, but with our staff members.
Like how powerful would it be to watch a completely broken, fallen pastor be restored back in God's glory to still shepherd a church that he failed before.
Well, and even more so to the sense of like a completely broken pastor church. And then now you have church members, on the extreme side, maybe actually coming to Jesus because they go, whoa, if this man will get restored from, this, like where he could just literally, his life be blown up. Mm-hmm. Like how much more could my life be transformed?
Yeah, and what better changed? Showing of God's grace than to truly actually show it.
And show it to the people that are like speaking God's grace and doing,
But,
and
my thing is as long as pastors believe they're going to get fired for their sin, that's as long as they're going to hide it. Period.
So maybe it's like, again, you're playing devil's advocate. So I was kind of just do the flip side. So what's the line between, do you do it the same for the pastors as you do any staff member, any, regular maybe not volunteer, but any, intern role, any, admin role, do you do the same thing for them?
Absolutely. Not on stage.
Yeah.
Because the people on stage really don't care. They don't care who the admin is.
Yeah.
My thing, because if your admin does it, show that restoration to your staff. If somebody who's on stage that the people know, you show that restoration to your people. Because I think that there's nothing, truly nothing, that is more Christ-like and shows God's love than to actually restore somebody in front of them. And
be that living example.
When that kid that shows up every once in a while and like kind of just sits in the back, or that adult that just kind of sits in the back and goes, I don't really believe in this, hears about their pastor doing these bad things and says, well, they're going to get rid of them. You know how Christians are. When they see them restore that pastor and say, hey, dude, you screwed up just like everybody else did, just like all these other people did, and God restored them. Why could I not, as a mortal man who also sins, help the restoration of you?
Yeah.
And it's different if they don't want to change. Like,
yeah, if they're sitting there and they're like, or they're denying, like, no, that wasn't me. But
if they're running from it, fire them.
Yeah, shoot. Okay, cool. That's what you want to do, and that's what we're going to be. That's not who we are in the church, and you know who we are as a church. So in that, we're going to have to part our ways, and we'll be praying for you, and we pray for your journey, and but that's what it's got to be.
But if somebody comes to repentance, it's different.
But that's what that line is, where the person's coming, and asking for forgiveness and great, ultimately grace. I think that's the key is being able to show grace in that magnitude. Like, I'm just thinking of Jesus, like, the people that he'd be going and, it'd be like, oh, like, people were doubting him and they're like, oh, your daughter's already dead. Don't even worry about disturbing Jesus. And she's like, yo, your daughter's not dead. She's sleeping. Relax. I'm on my way.
Little girl, get up.
And he's like, gets there, and he's like, yo, like, he's like, you know what? Only like everyone else can stay out because they naysayers, they're doubters. Like, not everyone's gonna see this. Why? Because not everyone needs to see this. All right, only you two that actually still believe who I am and what I say I am. I can see this. Hey, girl, get up, go eat something. You hungry? Like, I mean, for real. Like, right. It's like, and so I feel like if anything, like, I mean, Jesus could have immediately turned around and be like, oh, y'all want that? Okay, shoot. I don't even waste my time walking this way.
Right.
I don't need to waste my time, coming over here. Y'all don't want to believe, like, and I don't need to show off my power either. I don't need to sit here and be like, oh, lightning and thunder. Not that's what Jesus did, but
right. Yeah,
I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like a little bit of grace, even a lot of grace, can go a long way.
I just think that the church culture is going to get more and more unhealthy as we continue to not restore people. If we continue to just crucify people for their sins, then church leaders are never going to get healthy. Or they're never going to be able to stay healthy because they're going to constantly be holding in anything that they go through with the fear that's going to end their career. Because if you spend 25 years in ministry, you're a lead pastor, people start to know you, you've been networking for 25 years, your whole city knows you, your whole state knows you, and then you do something stupid, and then you get fired, and everybody knows about it. What experience do you have outside of church? You know how hard it is to get a job when all your experience is only in churches?
And then who's going to hire you and, be like, oh, well, we're afraid of, this being an issue here, or,
no church is going to hire you.
No church is hire you.
And secular place is going to say, you have no experience outside of churches.
Like, how am I going to get you to, or how does that translate into where I'm at now or in this thing or whatever? Yeah. And then like now you're talking to the next level of like you uproot your whole entire life, 25 years, and you're trying to figure out where to start over.
Yep.
Where to go next.
And you
like,
won't be. I mean, you can. There are people who can, but they feel like they have to restart their entire life. They have to become new people.
And I think there's a line. I think there's a line between someone who's like intentionally like seeking forgiveness and then someone who intentionally is doing this everywhere. Like I've seen people that church hop and do this, and they get into like a church leadership position and they, psych everyone up and hype everyone up, and and you're like, oh, this vision, this direction, this is cool, and it's so misleading, and they end up hurting the church and hurting all the volunteers that got rallied behind this person, and like I've seen that happen, and they get caught for doing this in multiple churches.
But my thing is, what I feel like personally is that could stop the chain.
Yep.
A messy, crazy, ridiculous type of grace could stop that chain.
A reckless
of that
love.
Person running around church to church because they know they're going to get fired.
An overwhelming, never ending, reckless love.
Shut up.
Of the lead.
You make me sick.
I think, and I'd agree with you. I think that has the power to be what changes and be what really does change the generation and the community and the church, the big C.
Yep.
Because in that, I mean, that level of grace, I mean, you just don't see.
You don't. Non-church is the exact place where it should be.
Yeah.
Kim Kardashian had a baby.
Oh, geez. We don't need no more of that. I think, I don't know. I just, this next, like, kind of just idea of just processing, like, through kind of like places and hardships and, even just talking through some of, like, just remembrance things. Back on May 7th, a STEM school in Highlands Ranch, and this is in Colorado, had a shooting. Basically, a 18-year-old and a 16-year-old suspect. 18-year-old full adult. I guess had been going through some mental health changes and brought guns stolen from the house to the school, and then the 16-year-old. And this is where it gets weird, is as a male or identifies as a male, but born as a female. And in this like weird season, like this teen family dynamic doesn't sound like it's really there. Like just mentioning some like deportation stuff of like father figure not being in the picture and just like this whole thing. So here's the thing is the 16-year-old was a student and the 18-year-old was a graduate student is what's being said or what the information has been released. And so they all knew the school. They all knew the place where they were at. Apparently, the resource officer that day was not there. They had a hired contracted security officer that was filling in that day. And so there's like a lot of investigations going in. I guess the town came out and said, hey, they want to put $10 million into mental health and security for the school. But basically ended up what happening is 8 were injured. 1 was killed, just trying to defend the people. The police pretty much shut it down as quickly as they found out about it and jumped into it. But I mean, in the whole entire story, and I watched a video earlier of the 16-year-old, and just the 16-year-old is in tears, is that what extent of hurt do you have to be going through to get to this place? Either for the 18-year-old or even the 16-year-old. And I'm just trying to think of the household, like, if if the father figure has been gone, missing, deported 3 times. I can't even imagine what that feels like as a kid to not have that father figure in your life or have that father figure removed from your life in a sense. What pain or sorrow or suffering do you have to be going through? And then, the whole issue as well too, as they're going, what aspect of ruling out mental illness and stuff is going to be a plea on, this 18-year-old, well, he didn't know what he was doing, or, because I've seen that happen in the past where they plea into mental illness, and now you have someone who almost walks free, with very, not a slap on the wrist, but hey, like, we're going to watch you and you're going to be on medicine and you're, in counseling for 5 years and, you got a month of jail time or something like that. Like, to what extent, like, do you get at this place? And the other part too being like, why is this a place that we end up every single time?
So I'll start with, oh man.
Yeah.
First thing.
And the other part too is, sorry, I forgot this one part. This school is 8 miles from where Columbine. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think they responded so heavily to this. And this became such a big issue, is because, it's been several years from that.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's so close, I think it hits home to the town and just really, it shakes them. Yeah. I'm sure it probably brings back terrible memories.
Yep. So I'm going to start with upbringing. I do not think, this is just me again, I do not think that your upbringing can necessarily make you do things like this, right? So family situations, I understand they get bad. Never met my biological father, never once, don't know anything about him, and had a lot of family issues that I'm not going to go into right now. But either way, if I were to do something like this, you could pull up all that and make a case for why I did it. Now, the thing is that there's a point where you get to make a choice, right?
Yep.
But there's also mental illness. So when you add mental illness into that, then that's where you have the issue. So it's like, again, I'm going to kind of point to suicide on this one. Doctors talk about when people commit suicide that there's a moment where they feel like what they're about to do is the only option that they have. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that this is true, that there is a moment that it clicks and your brain is literally forcing you to accept this option as the only option. Reality. Right. And so, in fact, there are the people who have tried to commit suicide that lived that said that once that moment ended, they didn't want to do it. Mm. Now, what I want to say is that this same type of thing is possible when it comes to school shootings and things like that. So there's this moment that they have that they say, this is the only option. This is the only way I'm going to feel better. This is the only way. This is the only way. But I still can't justify justice not being served for things happening like this. Like, I can't sleep well knowing that somebody was able to walk into a school, shoot it up, and get off on a mental illness case. Like, that part just doesn't sit right with me. And that could easily be something in my heart, something that needs to be changed, something that needs to be stirred. But where I am right now, if we're just being completely honest, is that I can't sleep well knowing that somebody was able to go into a school, shoot it up, plead mental illness, and get out of it. Because I have a lot of friends who are going through mental illnesses. I have a lot of friends who deal with the depression and the anxiety and all these things. And you're not supposed to compare struggles, right? But they haven't gone to this extent. I haven't gone to this extent. A lot of people deal with these types of things and they haven't gone to this extent. So it's hard for me to justify. I'm not even going to quote it. I'm not even going to do the quotations, but like an actual, it is a slap on the wrist compared to what should be done when you shoot up a school.
Yeah.
Now there's grace, right? So there's grace where somebody comes to repentance, you forgive them and all those things, but there's also justice. Justice and grace can coexist, and they do, because God is just and God is gracious at the same time, right?
Yep.
And so there is a sense of justice that needs to be served when it comes to things like this. And again, I just can't that just doesn't sit well with me. Now, on one thing that bothers me more than anything is that America is where school shootings is most common.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact statistic, but we are way above any other place with school. And it has nothing. it doesn't have to do with gun laws. Like, we're not going to go there. I don't care about all that stuff right now. What I care about is the fact that innocent lives are being taken because of either mental illness, people making the option to do it, or the fact that because the gun in and of itself can't do anything until the person with the mental illness or the person who is the criminal is the criminal, not the victim. They are the criminal taking it and doing something with it. And so you can run on your political rant and do whatever you want about your gun laws, but that's not going to change the fact that when somebody has the intent to hurt somebody, they're going to find a way to do it. Whether it's with a pencil or an axe or a gun or whatever it is, when somebody is intent in knowing what they're going to do and they get maybe into this spot where they feel like it's the only option, they're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah. And for me, I just wrestle with the fact of that story is that there's a family that is now suffering and figuring out life with their child.
Yep. Without their
and
child.
There's several other families now that are processing the trauma of this. I mean, I can't even imagine being one of those students and going, I don't want to go back to school. I don't feel safe. I don't want to learn. I don't want to, everything that comes in that category of school, you don't want to do because it brings back a hard memory of that.
Yep.
And trauma is real. Trauma, nightmares, trauma, pain, trauma, like that is a real thing because it leads you to those pains. And I know we're not like focusing on suicide, but I know we mentioned this, I think, in a couple episodes. Did we ever talk about Andrew Stockland, the lead pastor?
We did not talk about that. I preached about it.
Oh, a couple weeks ago. I saw it where you preached about it. Do you mind if we go into that? Do you mind?
That's fine.
So can you unpack it since you just preached about it? Can you unpack who Andrew was and kind of just a summary so people that may not know this story understand kind of what it is? And then I want to kind of share something that I got from Catalyst West, a conference that I went to in California, where his wife actually spoke and shared kind of her heart and kind of where she feels like where she's at and where they're processing, and just really this idea of how to tend to your mental health.
Yeah. So Andrew was the head pastor of Inland Hills Church in California.
Yep.
Incredible speaker, incredible man, incredible husband, father. Battled with depression and anxiety. His leaders knew about it. His friends knew about it. Something he actively sought counsel for. And in the end of the day, he lost his battle.
Yeah.
Committed suicide. Yeah, that's pretty much all of it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just like, and it was a devastating shock to the community. I mean, just all the fellow churches rallying around Inland and just really supporting. And Kayla just shares really, we'll share this link on our page. It's a link to kind of what she says and kind of what she's sharing from just the experience of processing and going through. But she just processes like she gives a couple recommendations of where you can either follow up through kind of the story and the healing, or some books and some, obviously the suicide hotline number and retreat counseling site that you can kind of go to and do some stuff with. But she really just shares this idea of that, pastors aren't superhuman. Pastors aren't, pastors are human.
You're right.
Right. We get constantly, we're in a broken vessel, living life, trying to navigate, but trying to be a bright light in such a dark, dim world, and constantly battling with other people's problems, other people, not problems, but other people's brokenness and, struggles and journeys. And so pastors as a whole tend to burn out because they don't care for themselves. They don't
pour out and never get poured into.
And they don't seek counseling and they don't whatever. And
they don't rest.
In this, there's some stuff leading up to this, Andrew processing, just some stuff with his dad and passing of that, and just like the journey of just family stuff. And so, he was aware of this. He was seeking counseling.
Yep.
He even took a sabbatical to rest because he just felt like he was kind of feeling drained and tired. And so in that sabbatical, he was just growing and resting and being with his family and journeying. And I think there's a point where, his dad was getting to that kind of like end of the rope and was ready to pass the baton off to him. And even that pressure added a little bit, but like that moment. And just overall, the one thing that she said that stood out to me as a whole was this idea that Andrew didn't want suicide.
Right.
Andrew, that wasn't who he was. That wasn't who he was. It's not he struggled with depression. He struggled with the thoughts from moments and moments, but that's not what he wanted. But it was more so the illness and the pain and the struggles and that of the, like, it was a moment, and it was a moment where he didn't know what else.
That's the reason why I even used him, because I used one of his messages on depression in my message, and told his story a bit. And the only reason why I used him, well, the main reason I should say, is because from what I read about him and knew about him, is that he was the perfect example of somebody who took the right steps to fight a mental illness, and just ultimately it took him. Yeah. In my eyes, I don't like to say he died by suicide.
Yep.
He died from a mental illness is what happened.
And that's what his wife says too. He didn't die by suicide. He died by a mental illness. And that's not what she sees it as. That's not what she defines it as. That's not what, when people ask, and she shared something. It was so hard to hear her like speak and communicate this. She said that, like, she had a lady ask and go, how could he do this to his family and his kids? And she said it wasn't his choice. It wasn't what he wanted. This wasn't the journey, and that's not the case. That's not who he was, and that's not what it is. And she kind of ends kind of just her conversation, and I'll share the link to this so you guys can read it and listen to it. And she says, the enemy wants you to feel isolated. The enemy wants you to feel unloved and worthless. But I'm here to tell you that you're loved, you're valued more than you can ever imagine. And God has a plan for your life, no matter who you are, no matter your past, no matter your mistakes, no matter your mental health. God's got you. God's got this, and God can do impossible things.
Yep.
And so for me, just thinking through a STEM school shooting, thinking through past shootings, thinking through everything, for me, it just goes back to God's got you. God's got this, and God can do impossible things, not only with dark things, not only with hard things, not only with tough seasons, not only with our struggles, not only with our sins, not only with our moral conflict, but God can do impossible things.
Right. I think it's hard to, it's like the worst time with school shootings and the uprise and suicide and laws that are being passed and all these things. It's like, this is the hardest time for the gospel to shine through.
Yeah.
And like, it's the hardest time to go out saying that you're Christian, because people are constantly saying, well, why didn't God stop this? Why didn't God do this? And it's like, it's so much bigger than that. There's so much more to unpack in that simple question than people want to listen to. And now that we're getting into summer and winding down, and churches wind down in summer, we can talk about that a bit, but we get to this point where it's like, these headlines are going to continue.
Yeah.
Tragedies are going to continue. Pain is going to continue. And how do we navigate it best as church leaders? Because we have this whirlwind going on in us. We have this whirlwind going on in the lives that we lead. We have the whirlwind that's going on in lives of people that we don't lead.
Yeah.
And all of it's just this giant storm, just constantly just going and going and going and going. And it's like, we're trying to find our rest, and we're trying to get other people to find their rest, and other people to find their peace, and other people to find God. And it's like, it's just this nonstop go, 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 go. And I think that it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Not only for church people, Christians, but for non-Christians and all that. We need to get to a point where we can find peace for people. Like
what would it look like to live in a world with peace, to live in a world with love, to live in a world where you walked out and your neighbor was your neighbor? You didn't see a color. You didn't see their sin, you didn't see their baggage, you didn't see their garbage, you saw them as your neighbor and you loved them for that. What would it look like to just do life with people and, take off the filter that, that we're categorizing ourselves in, and, wrestle with, I saw a video that church did the other day, and it was, the Enneagram is a test for, and just another way for millennials to talk about themselves. But it's like, what if we just moved away from categorizing people? What if we moved away from just identifying people and grouping people, and we just went back to being people, being with people, journeying with people, stepping into their mess, not knowing who their mess is, not categorizing their mess into something that, fits in this category or puts you in this stereotype, or just literally with people.
Yeah. The only thing that's hard is that it's always been divided.
Yep.
Like it's always been since the Samaritans, the Pharisees, Sadducees, it's always been divided. And
even back to the fall.
Yep. And I can live with knowing that the world will never be at peace. Like I can live with knowing that we will never always be just one big happy family in America and Russia and China and the rest of the world. If I could have one thing, it actually even probably wouldn't even be world peace, because I know how hard that would be to accomplish. If I could advocate for one thing, it would be to know before it's too late. To know what people are going through before it's too late. To know that this person is feeling like they're going to commit suicide, or this person is feeling like they're going to shoot up a school, or this person is feeling like they're going to do this. Like having just a moment with people before these things happen. Because I think that if we just knew, even got cues or clues or something, or we were more aware, I think part of it is that because we're always in our phones and we have busy FOMO, and we're always trying to always keep up this reputation, that we lose out on knowing people's true emotions, knowing truly how they feel, knowing where they are, and knowing how to help, because we're just so caught in ourselves.
It goes back to the whole foundation of friendship, being open and vulnerable and being present.
Yep.
We need to get back to being present. We need to get back to removing the distractions and being present, so people want to be open and vulnerable and be real, and then it gives them that space to let us know.
Yeah, but the thing that sucks is that even when we pull ourselves from distractions, everybody else is still distracted. Yep. Like you can go on you that's listening, you can go on as many social media cleanses as you want. Everybody around you is still going to be on social media.
Yep. You can go on many purges, and I'm removing myself from this, and it's not going to change the fact that that's what's going to be surrounding you in today's culture, in today's generation, in today's, even some of the older generation is still surrounding them. And so it's like, I don't think that's the situation. I don't think isolating and cutting yourself off from that, but there's a line. It's a tool. It's not a replacement.
It's useful.
But it's not a replacement for real intentional connection.
We're going to get to a point where there's going to be no more connection. I mean,
we're already there.
Go sit in a restaurant and look at how many people are just sitting there staring at their phone. It's like, even I catch myself picking up my phone when I wake up. I'm like, oh, what's going on? It's like, breathe for a second.
Like, how about you take a moment and just realize the fact that God just gave you another breath, another day to walk this earth.
Yeah. I always wake up thinking I'm late. So I'm always like.
That's true. But no, I think, and one thing you said too is, like, you mentioned summer, right? You expect that it slows down in summer, like school's out and everything goes away. No, it's so stupid now. I mean, running from sports to camp to camp to camp to camp to thing to thing. Yeah, it doesn't slow down. It speeds up.
Churches slow down, though. Churches slow down though. Their programming. That's what
some churches slow down their programming. Some churches still go through the summer, and then some churches do absolutely nothing. Like they were done at the beginning of May.
So I have my volunteer team. They're like, hey, so are we on break for summer or something? This is my first summer with them, like full summer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do we be on break? Like, because students are out of school. I'm like,
and
so what you're saying is that we've given them now 8 more hours to do something stupid.
Well, here's the other part too.
Per day.
We've gained several more hours in a day that we could be doing something. That event that you've been planning that you wanted to do this whole entire time, but you only got 2 hours on a weekend that you could do it, and you're going to have half the students not be able to go to it. You have a whole summer where, there's still family vacations, and there's still sports, and but guess what? Now they can plan around, well, I don't got school, I don't got assignments, I don't got homework. So do that event now, do that thing so that you can, capture those students that would probably never be there otherwise.
Well, my thing is my grind can't stop because their lives don't stop.
That's good. That should be a tattoo or a sticker or something. I
should put that. My grind don't stop because the lives don't. Hey, so
sorry.
It's good. That was pretty nice. I'm not even gonna lie. Anyways, boots and cats and but like so, quiet, woman.
Not okay. One of my women, we respect you.
One of my friends, no. I'm about to explain that. One of my friends used to always say that to me, and it would drive me nuts. And I don't know why. I don't know if you got it from a TV show. If somebody can tell me what TV show or song or anything that came from, please drop it in the description. Speaking of women, though, because perfect segue, we'll come back to summer in just a second. I met these two ladies at this youth syndicate thing. And I was like, hey, are you guys in ministry? I'm like so bad at this. And they're like, yeah. And then they tell me what they're doing and stuff. And I was like, so we do a podcast where we talk about church and stuff. And I don't really care about the theological debate about like women pastors or any of that. But would you like to come on and chat about just like your experience and stuff? And they're like, yeah. So hopefully they'll be here in next episode or an episode after that. And we get to see their perception. And then we can also talk to them a little bit about what they're doing for the summer.
I like it.
But with summer's winding
down. Not
in
a weird way, like what they're doing with their summer with their youth groups.
What do you mean?
No, I just like you said, like they're gonna talk about what they're doing with their summer, like not like weird, like what they're doing their summer with their youth groups.
They're married.
I'm just trying to break it down. I didn't want it to make it sound like it came out like this the way you said it, and the way we just want to break it down because this is why this generation would go, oh, you're trying to figure out what they're trying to do with their summer.
You know why? That's because it's 10:19 p.m. and we are both old men at this point in life,
and we break down that. I won't even.
So summer winding down, summer's supposed to wind down for some reason in some people's eyes. But I think that with so much free time, your mind can go crazy. My motto is that I stay busy so I don't get in trouble. I'm always busy. I'm always doing something. And it's not always busy work, but I'm always doing something because boredness spawns bad ideas. Oh,
always. And boredness just spawns aloneness, and aloneness is Satan's playground.
And anytime you ask a kid, why did you do something stupid? I was bored.
100% of the time you ask them why you did something. It's like, I was bored. I didn't know what to do. My friends weren't there.
So we lit something on fire. And then
I thought it was cool to just take it. I didn't know it was going to be a big deal.
Yeah. So that's why I don't like winding down in the summer. I mean, hopefully.
And you're going to get those students that don't have the money to go on these crazy vacations and so you get to provide an experience over the summer where you're capturing students that like they're frustrated. All their friends or their certain friends are going on these crazy cruises and trips to California and Disneyland, the happiest place on earth.
I've never been there.
Neither have I. Hey, would you like to sponsor me and Javon to do a podcast?
I'm not going to Disneyland.
No. Just to talk about the overpriced payment and market of Disneyland.
Even if I could go to Disneyland, I couldn't afford a pretzel in Disneyland.
All I want is a churro from Disneyland.
Man, I'm about to get the churro from Lil Paco around the block.
Is there churros at Lil Paco?
No.
I was really excited. I was like, we're going to get churros after this. You're going to hop in my car. Actually, no, my car's going to check engine light.
What?
Yeah, it just popped up on the way here.
Oh.
Yeah, Lord, I'm just praying it's something small. I mean, nothing else has happened. My car's not smoking. It's not blowing up or anything. It's probably just something silly.
Your car better not be smoking. It'd get lung cancer. So...
Anyways,
I'm funny.
If you are,
I'm worried. Yeah, it's time to.
If you are bored, if you are still listening, if you're like, what the heck are these two guys talking about? We just talk about real life. We talk about real issues, and we talk about our experience in ministry. And so, thanks for joining us on this ride. If you want to sponsor us, feel free to. We'd love to.
Make sure you like the podcast.
Yes,
share it. Show your friends.
If you listen to it and you're like, this is fire. We had a lady listen to it and said this was fire. And
dude, can we pull up that comment actually?
Yeah,
just real quick. That was amazing. That made my day that day.
I watched it and I was like, whatever. Like if you like, and you're like, hey, this like hit home for me. Would you give it a share and say, hey, go check out this episode? It doesn't have to be the whole podcast. Go check out this episode.
Christina Jones. Shout out to this heartfelt caption that you put on.
Dude, it was like
it's
3
great.
paragraphs.
It's good stuff. Great stuff. We appreciate you listening, Christina. And please, all of you, continue to spread the word about the podcast. It is doing something. And hopefully you can get the right episodes to the right people and they'll join us along this journey. So if you're bored or you're an enthusiast, either way, we're just glad that you are here. Thank you for joining us on the Ministry Misfits podcast. I am Javon.
And I am Matt.
And we'll catch y'all next week.
Yep.